I can't come to work today. I'm having a mental health crisis. It's a Tuesday. This is the third crisis this month. There's no emergency, just a bad day. This is a real email a manager received from a 28-year-old employee. I need to set a boundary with you. Your email asking me to finish my project by Friday is triggering my trauma around authority figures. The project was 3 weeks overdue. Look, mental health matters. Boundaries matter. Trauma is real. But millennials have turned suffering into a weapon, and they're using it to manipulate everyone around them while claiming they're the victims. Today, we're exposing the dark psychology of millennial manipulation. How they've weaponized therapy language, trauma narratives, and victimhood to avoid accountability and extract emotional labor from everyone around them. This isn't going to be comfortable, especially if you're a millennial. But let's talk about it. Tactic Hasson. Weaponized therapy language. Millennials learned therapy language. Then they turned it into psychological warfare. Real examples from the internet. You're gaslighting me equals to, I don't like what you're saying. I'm setting a boundary, equals to, I'm refusing to do something I don't want to do, and you're not allowed to question it. That's triggering my trauma. Equals to, I'm uncomfortable, and you need to stop. You're being toxic, equals to you criticized me. I need space to process, equals to, I'm ghosting you, but making it sound healthy. Here's the manipulation. Therapy language is designed to help people communicate their needs and heal from real trauma. Millennials have co-opted it to shut down criticism and avoid accountability. Real story. A manager asked a millennial employee to redo a report that had multiple errors. The employee responded, "Your feedback is triggering my childhood trauma around perfectionism and parental criticism. I need you to acknowledge the harm you caused before we can move forward." The manager had simply said, "There are typos on page 3. The psychological mechanism. This is called emotional blackmail through pseudo-clinical language. By framing normal interactions, feedback, disagreement, boundaries, in trauma language, millennials create a situation where you can't criticize them without being labeled abusive. Any discomfort they feel becomes your responsibility. They're always the victim, you're always the aggressor. Why it works? Because pushing back makes you look like you don't care about mental health. You're trapped. Either you accept their framing, or you're invalidating their lived experience. That's not therapy, that's manipulation. Tactic #2. Competitive victimhood, the trauma Olympics. Millennials have turned suffering into social currency. The more oppressed you are, the more authority you have. This creates what psychologists call competitive victimhood, a race to the bottom where whoever has suffered most wins. Real examples. Person A, I'm exhausted from working 50 hours this week. Millennial, that's nothing. I'm neurodivergent, chronically ill, and dealing with generational trauma. Check your privilege. N. Person B, this movie was disappointing. Millennial, as a queer person of color, that movie was literally violence against my community. Your disappointment is centering your comfort. See the pattern? Every conversation becomes a competition about who's suffered more. And whoever wins the suffering Olympics gets to control the narrative. The manipulation. By positioning themselves as the most victimized, millennials create a shield against criticism. You can't argue with someone's trauma, you can't debate someone's pain. So they lead with their identity and trauma, making any disagreement an attack on their existence. Real case study. In 2024, a workplace conflict went viral. A millennial employee was asked to attend a 9 a.m. meeting. They responded with a 2,000-word email detailing their ADHD diagnosis, their anxiety around morning commitments, their trauma from rigid school schedules as a child, how this meeting request was ableist, a demand for a formal apology. The meeting was to discuss their own project. It was scheduled at 9 a.m. because that's when the team was available. When the manager explained this, the employee posted the email exchange on LinkedIn, claiming workplace discrimination. The psychology. This is victimhood as power. By claiming victim status, you gain moral authority. Victims are always right. Protection from criticism. Criticizing victims is cruel. Attention and sympathy. People rally around victims. Control. Others must accommodate your needs. Millennials learned that in modern culture, the victim is the hero. So they position themselves as victims in every situation, even ones they created. Tactic #3. Performative vulnerability trauma dumping as bonding. Millennials have normalized talking about mental health, that's genuinely good. But they've also normalized trauma dumping on strangers, turning vulnerability into performance art, and using their pain as a conversation weapon. The difference: healthy vulnerability. I've struggled with anxiety. I go to therapy and it helps. If you're struggling, I recommend finding support. Millennial trauma dumping. I'm having a panic attack in this Starbucks right now because the barista reminded me of my emotionally unavailable father. And I need everyone to know that I'm not okay, and this is a safe space for me to process my nervous system dysregulation out loud. Real example: a millennial posted a 4/7 tweet thread about their journey with trauma that included detailed accounts of childhood abuse, their therapist's private notes, photos of them crying, a call out of their parents by name, links to their Venmo for emotional labor. This got 50,000 likes and hundreds of comments saying, "So brave." But here's the question: is publicly processing your trauma for an audience of strangers actually healing? Or is it extracting sympathy, attention, and sometimes money from people who feel obligated to support you? The manipulation. When you lead with your trauma in every interaction, you create an unbalanced power dynamic. People feel they can't challenge you, you're suffering. People feel obligated to emotional support you, you shared, they must care. People feel guilty if they don't engage, ignoring trauma is cruel. The psychology. This is called covert manipulation through vulnerability. By oversharing, you put others in a position where they must respond with care and sympathy or they're the bad guy. It's not connecting, it's controlling. Example: first date conversation. Normal person: so what do you do for work? Millennial: I'm between jobs right now because my last workplace was so toxic it triggered my PTSD from my narcissistic mother. And I'm in intensive therapy 3 times a week trying to heal my attachment wounds before I can even think about re-entering the workforce. You're 15 minutes into a first date. You now know their entire trauma history. You feel obligated to be supportive. You can't just say, "Cool, wanna split this appetizer?" They've trapped you in emotional labor on a first date. Tactic #4. Refusing accountability. Everything is someone else's fault. Here's the darkest millennial manipulation. They've been victimized by systems, so they've learned to blame systems for their personal failures too. The setup: millennials genuinely got screwed. Student loans, the housing crisis, the recession, these are real external factors. But they've extended this logic to everything. I didn't finish the project because of my ADHD. No, you didn't start it until the last minute. I can't hold down a job because of capitalism. No, you called in sick 15 times in 3 months. I can't maintain relationships because of my attachment trauma. No, you ghosted someone because they asked you to communicate. Real example: a millennial posted, "I'm $50,000 in credit card debt because of my depression and the system's failure to support mental health." Comments: "So brave. The system failed you." Reality: they spent $50,000 on concerts, travel, and DoorDash, then blamed capitalism when the bill came due. The manipulation. By attributing every personal failure to systemic issues or mental health, millennials avoid accountability while maintaining victim status. The psychology. This is called external locus of control, believing that external forces control your outcomes, not your choices. Pair that with learned helplessness, the belief that your actions don't matter because the system is rigged. The result? A generation that can explain every failure but can't prevent the next one. Why it's manipulation? Because it forces everyone around you to manage your life for you. Your boss can't give you feedback, it triggers you. Your partner can't set boundaries, it's your attachment trauma. Your friends can't call you out, it's victim blaming. You've created a bubble where you're never wrong, everyone else is just failing to accommodate your trauma. The real cost: millennials who do this never grow. They're stuck in a loop of fail at something, blame external factors or mental health, receive sympathy, repeat. They're so busy being victims, they forget to be agents of their own lives. Why they do it: the psychology behind the manipulation. Here's the thing: millennials aren't wrong that they got screwed. They were promised the American dream and got dead instead. That's real. That's valid. But somewhere along the way, being a victim became their identity and they can't let go of it. The psychological trap. Millennials were raised by boomers who told them, "You're special. You can be anything. Go to college, you'll succeed. Work hard, you'll be rewarded." Then reality hit. College debt with no job, recession destroyed entry-level positions. Work hard didn't lead to prosperity, they're poorer than their parents. The response? Instead of just saying the system failed us, let's build something new. Many millennials made victimhood their entire personality. Why? Because being a victim has benefits. Sympathy and attention, moral authority, protection from criticism, community, other victims validate you. An excuse for not achieving what they were promised. The tragedy: some millennials are so invested in their victim narrative, they sabotage their own success to maintain it. Real example: a millennial turned down a job offer that would have paid $80K because I refused to participate in capitalist exploitation. They currently live with their parents and post on Twitter about how the system won't let them succeed. They had an opportunity. They rejected it to maintain their victim identity. The psychology: this is called identity protective cognition. When maintaining your identity is more important than solving your problems. If you build your entire sense of self around being a victim of the system, then succeeding within the system destroys your identity. So you stay stuck. Not because you have to. Because you need to. Look, not all millennials weaponize victimhood. Many are genuinely working through real trauma, setting healthy boundaries, and building lives despite the systems that failed them. But there's a subset that's turned suffering into a lifestyle brand. And they're making it harder for people with real struggles to be taken seriously. Here's the truth. You can be a victim of circumstances and responsible for your response. Both things are true. The economy screwed you. What you do now is still your choice. Your childhood gave you trauma. Healing it is your responsibility. You have mental health challenges. Managing them is on you. Victimhood is a starting point, not an identity. The millennials who understand this? They're thriving. They acknowledged they got screwed, then built businesses, careers, and lives anyway. The ones who don't? They're still posting about their trauma on Twitter, wondering why nothing changes. So if you're a millennial, your pain is valid, your struggles are real. The system did fail you. And you still have to show up. You still have to do the work. You still have to take accountability. Because weaponizing your trauma might get you sympathy, but it won't get you the life you want. And everyone else, stop rewarding victimhood performance. Start rewarding resilience. Compassion doesn't mean accepting manipulation. You can care about someone's mental health and hold them accountable. Up next, Gen Z's dark psychology, how they've turned cancel culture into a power tool and weaponized offense. Gen Z, you're not ready for this one. But buckle up. Subscribe. And millennials, I know you want to tell me I'm invalidating your trauma in the comments. Go ahead, prove my point.